Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Eric Yeung. He's at King Kong 9888 on X. We've been communicating for probably over a couple of years, and Eric is based in Hong Kong. And I've always wanted to speak with Eric. And finally, we've arranged something. Eric, nice to have you on the channel.
Thank you, Mario. It's a pleasure. Thank you
Great.
for having me.
You're welcome. And Eric, of course, he's a gold and silver guy. He also told me he's semi-retired, but he's been in industry. He's based out of Hong Kong. Maybe we can start, Eric, briefly talking about why you're in Hong Kong, the history there, and then we can go on to other topics.
Well, Mario, I'm from Hong Kong. That's where I'm from originally.
Yeah, yeah.
And I moved over to North America when I was a young boy, and I moved back to Hong Kong because I was in the manufacturing business for out of China for Western customers, people from Australia, Europe, US, basically. And that's basically what I did. And that's basically why I'm still in Hong Kong right now.
Yeah, and also the story of your granddad, you told me some months ago how he was involved in the banking sector before the Chinese, the communists took over. That was really interesting, and maybe that's one of the reasons why you're so much into gold and interested in gold and silver. Maybe you could tell the viewers a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my grandfather from my mother's side um, was a banker at Shanghai before 1949. So back then, he's actually originally from Xi'an, which is the western province of China. And traditionally, in that area, they cultivated cotton. It's a big cotton industry center for the country. So what he did, he actually owned some cotton business there, and as well, he was in banking in Xi'an, and eventually he moved that banking business to Shanghai, and that's how that all that worked out, basically.
I see. And
Yeah.
you told me how he tried to warn a lot of his clients what to do with their money or gold because he thought there could be trouble just prior to the Chinese communist takeover. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's actually, not really about the communists. That was, I believe, 1947 to 1949, right before the communists took over. The KMT, which is the party that is in Taiwan right now, they ruled China basically um, before 1949, and just before the communists took over, they hyperinflated the Chinese currency. They called it the gold certificate, but ironically, it's not backed by gold. It's just pure fiat, and they hyperinflated that. So my grandfather, he hid the gold, his customers' gold, when the government came and tried to confiscate the gold. And when the KMT retreated to Taiwan, um, he actually took the gold out and gave it all back to his customers. And that's the story,
Yeah. So the
you know.
KMT, the Kuomintang and Chiang Kai-shek, right? And they took all the gold to Taiwan, I
To
guess.
Taiwan, yeah, but not my grandfather's and
Yeah.
not his
And,
customers' gold.
yeah,
That's
and
exactly
that
what happened.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then he was able to move to Hong Kong, right? Is that
Yes,
yeah.
yes, with some of the gold,
Yeah, I
basically.
mean that's why
So
it's so important, and I think it's really interesting because In this day and age that we live, there's so much monetary uncertainty, and there's so many plans about starting some kind of new gold-backed system or crypto-backed. And I don't trust any of them, to be honest. I read Judy Shelton's book, and I like Judy Shelton, and she knows what she's talking about. But would I really like to uh, put my money into a 50-year gold-backed bond that only redeems the gold in 50 years and pays no coupon? I don't think so. I think I'm gonna do like your granddad did and try to hide it.
That's a good plan, Mario. That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah,
Great. So
yeah.
let's move to a different topic now. And I saw that yesterday, I think, and it's been coming out now on X or Twitter, that the Chinese central bank, the PBOC, is actually buying. Well, this guy who wrote this, Jan Neuenhaus, he actually thinks the Chinese central bank is buying gold on the quiet from London. You probably remember well. Eric, that back in May, the Chinese central bank they came out with their data, reserve data, and it looked like they'd stopped buying gold, and the market topped in gold, and then it went back up only in August because people thought, oh, the Chinese are not buying gold anymore, the central bank, the bull market is finished, and that. So maybe you can talk to us about this new story and what do you think it means really for the gold market going forward?
So I think Jen's analysis is right on in this case because as you read the article, he used the U United Kingdom's customs data plus LBMA data to determine that China bought 60 metric tons of gold in September and 60 tons of gold in August. And actually, Jen said every single month China has been buying.
October as well.
October as well. Yeah, October, September, November, nonstop, basically, right? And my take on the situation is this: look at the gold price in London right now, and look at the gold price in Shanghai right now. Right now, the gold price in Shanghai is actually, I believe, 1 or 2% below the London gold price. So Jen is saying that the PBOC, which is the central bank of China, is buying gold in London. And I agree with it, with like he has the data to back it up. If that's the case, China is buying more expensive gold from outside of China instead of buying gold that is delivered at the at the SGE, right? So what does that mean? That means that China is competing with Western big gold buyers for physical gold. The reason why I say that is because unless that's the case, you won't, otherwise you wouldn't have a higher physical gold price in the West versus China.
Yeah, and it's interesting because up until recently and last year was the other way around. There was a Shanghai premium, and also in silver. I'm not sure what the silver situation is right now. So, why do you think the Chinese central bank is doing that? Is it because you think they're testing? Um, London, the LBMA, because there's a lot of theories that well, not theories really, but London, the bullion banks can borrow gold or
Mhm.
lease gold from the Bank of England and sell it many times over. It's called rehypothecation. So is that what you think is happening, or is it something else?
I think China wants the physical gold. That's the bottom line. I
And
think what is happening is that China is, in the middle of de-dollarization. And more importantly, China is trying to get rid of its US Treasury bonds. Not too quickly, but it's certainly selling every quarter. every financial quarter, China is selling a lot of US Treasury bonds. So what is China going to put this enormous trade surplus, US dollar trade surplus into? Physical gold. So I think it's as simple as the fact that China wants additional physical gold as as its reserve asset for trading with the other BRICS nations in the future.
Yeah.
That's basically what I think. Yes.
And I guess the the gold in China, domestic gold, has already been taken up, and they don't want to disrupt the market domestically because they want people, I guess, to continue to buy gold. The public. It makes sense. And is there a danger, you think, that because there's so much talk about geopolitical tensions, especially with Russia, China, and the BRICS and the West and the new Trump administration. Is it possible, you think, that the LBMA could stop the Chinese banks or the PBOC from buying gold from the bullion banks? Is that something that you could see in the future?
I think the West is going to keep this charade going as long as possible. That's what I think. And I don't see them stopping physical deliveries, which is what you just said. I think the only option is to let the gold and silver price go up in this scenario. Do
Yeah.
you agree, Mario? Do you think,
Yeah.
like, I mean, the other option is to stop physical deliveries and then the jig is up,
Yeah,
then everybody knows it's a fake, right? Like they don't have
that's right.
anything,
That's
basically. So
right.
I think, we're at the brink of the gold and silver prices going up to a more sustainable price,
Hmm.
basically. That's the way I
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right. And then that will
yeah,
encourage more mining worldwide, and then the Chinese can buy it from other sources. Uh,
exactly. Yes.
and maybe they won't have to buy as much because their reserves will be reliquefied. And talking about their reserves, gold reserves, and also foreign exchange reserves. Maybe we could move into the BRICS and also what the Chinese are doing now. And they have been doing it for a while, but people have noticed it more. Even Newsweek, you told me that the Chinese now government is issuing in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, they're issuing sovereign bonds denominated in dollars. And you tell me that a lot of the bond traders, in Hong Kong don't put much importance into it, but I do, and you do as well. So maybe you could tell the viewers why it's so important and how it's going to affect the BRICS and the dollar for that matter.
Okay, well, so the Chinese US, first of all, is these are Chinese US dollar sovereign bonds. So they are Chinese sovereign bonds, but they're in US dollars denomination, right? And they are issued in Riyadh, which is the capital of Saudi Arabia. And these bonds were listed on Nasdaq Dubai, Hong Kong, and the these bonds were given A plus rating by Finch earlier this month. And also, these bonds were introduced to the Chinese public via CCTV. That's how I found out about it because I was watching a KOL from China talking about the CCTV reports on these Chinese sovereign bonds. So, all in all, as you probably know already, China already has a lot of US dollars, right? China's annual trade surplus is around $800 billion a year, right? That's just the most recent one. And China's Current account surplus is around $240 billion. So China is not in lack of US dollars, right? Has a lot of US dollars. What China is doing here, I believe, is that it's trying to give countries such as Saudi Arabia and also its own bond buyers in China an avenue to reinvest their US dollars in Chinese US dollar sovereign bonds instead of buying something that the US government issues, US treasuries. So I believe this is a test bed for China's US dollar sovereign bonds to be in direct competition with US treasuries.
Do you think that could be a response to the threats of like tariffs? So let's say if Trump comes in and puts high tariffs on Chinese goods coming into the US, then China might start issuing more than 2 billion. They could start issuing, I don't know, 20 or 30 billion. We saw that the bid to cover of this latest issue was like 20 to 1.
Yes, I absolutely think that that's a possible scenario. Like I said, this is a test bed. It's
Yeah.
for them to test it out to see how it runs. And if it runs well, they're going to, of course, they're going to make it bigger.
Yeah.
That's what I think. Yeah. And $2 billion really is really not much.
No.
I mean, I can see them doing 20 and it'll still be all oversubscribed,
Yeah. And
however many times.
I
Yeah.
saw as well that when it was issued, it was only 1 or 2 basis point above the equivalent treasury, and then actually the yield dropped way below U.S. Treasury yields, which is really interesting. So it could make it harder for the U.S. Treasury to sell its debt abroad. Is that how you see it?
In the future, yes.
Yeah.
Right now, $2 billion, like I said, is not much,
Yeah.
right? But if they start doing a lot of it, 20 billion, 200 billion, let's say, right? Then
Yeah.
it's a serious competitor to the to US treasuries.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if Scott Bessent has heard about this, and maybe we can switch over to him. He's the they call it the presumptive U.S. Treasury Secretary, and in the last 24 hours or so, someone has published a video he did, I think on November 4th, talking about how he's long gold and it's his biggest position and that he wants the U.S. to grow out of the debt. Maybe we can start with gold and what you think about the new nominee.
I think as a hedge fund manager or as a the news call him a billionaire. I'm sure he has a lot of money, and he said that gold is his biggest position only just back in November 4th of this month. I think that's really good news for any gold investors. I mean, this guy is the is the new U.S. Treasury Secretary, right? And he owns a lot of gold. So I think that's good news. And then he also said that Poland wants to up its gold reserves to 20% of its overall reserves. And he said that he was shocked by that, but he see that as positive. So that tells you something, Mario,
Yeah,
doesn't it? Yeah,
yeah, it does, and it's weird because I was listening to that, and
yeah.
prior to him saying that he was long gold, he kind of implied that the reason why gold was going up is because of Xi Jinping hasn't really allowed the free market to make the Chinese economy sustainable, which I think is not really a great reason. Do you think it's because he doesn't want to tell the world the reason gold is going up is because the US has been inflating the dollar since 1971.
Of course, I mean, he's on Team Trump, so he cannot tell the truth like me and you. He has to toe the party line. That's what I believe in in that scenario. And in terms of Xi Jinping um, responsible for gold going up, maybe to a certain extent, like we t just talked about, in terms of China buying gold all over the world. But the real reason why gold is going up is because the US has been printing money left and right. I mean, that's the reason. And he can't say that.
No, no, because he has to make
So,
it seem that
yeah,
China and other countries around the world, they're the ones that are manipulating their currencies. And I'm not taking
correct.
sides here. I'm just observing from afar. I'm not American. I'm not Chinese. I was born in Brazil. I live in the UK. And I looked recently, it's ever since China joined the WTO, I think 2001 or thereabouts, the Chinese yuan is only down about 15%, which doesn't seem that much. So that's the way I see it. Um, Maybe we could switch over to the milkshake guys on X. I mean, a lot of you and I have followed Brent Johnson. I don't
Yep.
that much anymore, but what do you think is the purpose there? Because he seems to agree that the dollar, that gold is a good place to be, but at the same time, he seems to defend the fiat base dollar at every possible moment. Yeah, can you elaborate a little bit on that?
So that's very contradictory, right? Like you said, that doesn't make any sense, first of all. But when I talk to his followers, I said this before and I'll say it again. Yes, the milkshake theory is it stands. I guess it worked in the last 50 years. That's how the US dollar was designed to do, right? To suck wealth from the rest of the world into the US. That's how the US Treasury system works, right? Um, the US government, the US Treasury issues money, prints money. You have offshore entities creating euro dollars, right? And then all this money are used to buy real things by, Americans, etc., right? And people outside of America. And then what happens is that when the US have these credit cycles, US tighten liquidity, all the money gets sucked back into the US. And then all these other countries that depend on the US dollars, they go bust, right? And then Americans and the allies go out to these countries and they buy these assets at these foreign countries for pennies on the dollar. Is that is that what you understand the milkshake theory to be,
Yeah,
Mario?
that's
Basically,
yeah,
that
that's
sounds right.
yeah, that's really well explained, and John Perkins, I don't know if you heard of him.
Yeah,
He talked about that the economic hitman. So that could be one of the reasons why also China is testing these sovereign bonds in dollars because they could issue these bonds and give the proceeds to a lot of the BRICS countries so they can pay off their dollar debts and not be dependent on this milkshake uh, uh, milkshake mechanism, I guess.
yeah, it makes sense. And a lot of people say, well, $2 billion is nothing. Well, everything starts small, right? So they're
That's right.
starting small and they're going to, eventually make it bigger. And like
Yeah.
you said, they're going to take that US dollars and they're going to recycle it to the BRICS countries
Yeah.
and allow them to pay off the US dollar debts, and then maybe the new debt that they're going to be borrowing from is going to be in Chinese dollars, Chinese RMB, Chinese yen, sorry,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's how, slowly they're going to get off the milkshake or the US dollar debt cycle, right?
Yeah.
Slowly in that sense, right?
Yeah. And
But
yeah.
yeah, sorry,
I,
go ahead. Yeah.
yeah. And I also think the, this new BRICS bloc, they want to also not make the same mistake that countries have made by being under the fiat dollar since 1971, and maybe that's why they're pushing people to have gold so that they can have like a neutral asset. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, I see that because at the end of the day, what's the thing that is most trustworthy? Gold.
Yeah,
It doesn't belong to one single nation. It's not something that somebody can just push a button and cancel,
yeah,
which is what the US is doing to Russia, right?
yeah,
To their US dollar assets, or you can't just get gold stolen from you if you self-custody the gold. If the
yeah,
gold is in your hands, in your possession, if somebody wants to steal your gold, they got to invade your country.
yeah, yeah,
So that's the way I see it, right? On that front. But yeah, like the most important thing I want to tell people who really believe in the milkshake theory is this. China and the rest of the world, they're trying different things to be less dependent on the US dollar and US treasuries in the future. And I don't know if they're going to be successful. You don't know if they're going to be successful either, right, Mario? Nobody knows.
no,
But we cannot deny the fact that they're trying. And as investors, we have to know what they're trying. And that's it. If
yeah,
we if
because
we just deny, like hand wave everything away, we hand wave everything away and say, well, they are not trying, or they're trying is useless, then you're not being a good investor, right? You have to look at all the facts, look at what's happening on a day-to-day basis, month-to-month basis, what is changing, and determine if what you're doing, gold, silver, miners, whatever, is the right thing to do for the next couple of years as an investment,
yeah,
right? That's
that's
all I'm saying. I'm saying that China, the rest of the world, they're trying. We don't know if they're going to be successful, but we are watching on a daily basis. And that's
yeah,
my explanation to the milkshake guys, right? Like, I'm not saying China's going to win because they keep accusing me of that. They keep coming to me and say, Eric is saying that China is going to win. It's going to be a lot better than the US. I'm not saying that. I'm saying they're trying to get away from this US dollar, US treasury system. Not completely, but at least partially, right? That's all I'm saying.
no, I agree
Is
with
that,
you. I
yeah.
agree with you, and that's what I've been trying to tell people. And a lot of sometimes I do get comments, why do you like the brick so much? But it's not a matter of liking, it's just a matter of looking at what's going on and how it's going to affect gold and silver and the miners. And yeah, and I think, like you said, in 5, 10 years' time, the bricks might not succeed, but in the meantime, they're doing a lot of stuff to become less dependent on the dollar and treasuries. And it's the analogy would be like if you belong to a club, a golf club, for example, and there's always the same guys that decide everything, and they punish the people who are not in the clique. You decide to open another golf club and change membership. And I think that's what we're seeing. And I wanted to ask you as well, because Scott Bessent, in that interview he did the 4th of November, that podcast, he said that Xi Jinping is a Leninist and that he's not going to allow the free market to make the Chinese economy sustainable. But I mean, the Chinese economy has been the biggest success story, I think, in well, hundreds of years, I would argue. And at the same time, when I look at history and I've studied about gold, uh, we're told that communists and authoritarians, the first thing they do is that they ban people from owning gold. But in China, it seems like the Leninist Xi Jinping, to quote Scott Besant, actually encourages the people there to buy gold. So, what have you got to say to Scott Besant about that?
Because he's wrong. China is not a Leninist country. It's what we call a socialist country with capitalist aspects. Make sense?
Yeah,
It's a socialist country that is running its economy using principles from capitalism. That's exactly what's happening in China.
yeah,
So people are still, I think, this Cold War mentality just is not what's happening in reality, unfortunately. Some of the best companies are from China. How does he explain that?
yeah, I
A
know.
lot of the most competitive companies are from China. The best EVs right now are made in China, better than Tesla
Oh, I know, and cheaper.
and cheaper too, right? So
Yeah, I don't
that's
remember.
capitalist. I mean,
Yeah, I don't
like,
remember the Soviet Union being doing really well under Lenin.
yeah, using tariffs to manipulate the market, like to stop Chinese EVs from getting into the US, that's Leninist,
He,
not China, right? It's the other way around. He got it all wrong.
yeah, he
That's the
probably
way I see it.
he maybe he knows this, but like you said, he has to play play on
Yeah, I
team.
understand.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's the new. He probably will never say anything about gold anymore. Now that he's a U.S. Treasury Secretary,
you're right.
that's
You're right. Yeah,
his job, right? But like,
yeah,
to call Xi Jinping a Leninist, the way that China is being run right now is just too far away from what's actually happening in reality.
yeah, yeah. And maybe one final thing before we wrap up, maybe turn a little bit into geopolitics. Do you think the all the kind of crisis we've had since 2022 with Russia vis-a-vis Ukraine, do you think that's going to spread in terms of China and Taiwan? Or is that something that the people here in the West just keep playing this card? What do you think, Eric?
I think the US is certainly trying to provoke China to do something to Taiwan. From what I can see, I don't think China is going to try to militarily attack Taiwan or take Taiwan back by force. I think what is more likely going to happen is that China is going to try to either leapfrog or catch up to the West in terms of its integrated circuit technology. And once it catches up, um, in that area, I think China is just going to over time economically assimilate Taiwan.
Yeah,
That is the plan. Like instead of using the military threats that China makes sometimes, that's just to keep Taiwan in line so that it doesn't do something too outrageous with the US,
I,
like American troops in Taiwan, for example. They don't want that.
yeah,
China doesn't want that, right? Yeah.
great. Eric, I guess we could talk for a long time, but maybe we could just do another podcast in a few weeks or a few months from now, and we're gonna keep an eye on things. And we always chat with each other as well on X. And for the viewers as well who are on X or Twitter, they can follow Eric at King Kong 9888. I highly recommend it. Uh, he has some good posts I also like you're using a lot of AI for your pictures, aren't you, Eric?
I am. This is for the X AI.
Yeah.
Grok. That's
Oh,
what I
Zach,
use. Yeah,
maybe
it's great. Yeah, it's Grok.
I haven't tried that. Maybe I should try that. So,
Yes.
yeah. Anyway, um, well, I wish you all the best, Eric, and thanks for coming on and giving some of your time. And yeah, take care.
Thank you, Mario. Have a great day. Thank you for having me on today.
Oh, you're
Thank you.
welcome. Bye.
Yeah.